Hey everybody, Morley Scott here. Welcome to a brand new initiative with the Elks. It's a new podcast. I know you're thinking just what everybody needs, another podcast to listen to. Well, if you're an Edmonton Elks fan, you're going to want to listen and watch this podcast because it's going to be all about the Elks. We're going to talk to players, we're going to talk to coaches, we're going to talk with people associated with the team, and most importantly, we're going to hear those great stories that all those people have. We're going to talk about the team. Here's the situation. Podcast is going to drop once a week. It's going to fall the day before the game. We'll probably tease you the day before that, but the podcast will drop the day before every game all season long. As I say, we'll talk to players, coaches. We're going to get some great behind-the-scenes stories. Now, we got a new podcast, so we need a name for it. So we had a meeting. We got everyone together. We thought long and hard about it, and this is what we came up with. This is Antler Up, Episode 1. Let's go.
Antler up, Edmonton. The Elks are on the board.
There it is. Antler up, Edmonton. Touchdown, Elks.
Cornelius will throw to the outside to Shai Ross. At the 10, to the 5. Antler up, Edmonton. Touchdown, Elks.
Well, here we are, first episode of Antler Up, and we went right to the top to get our first guest. Chris Jones, coach and general manager of the Edmonton Elks, joins us. Chris, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Well, you got this job in December. Tell me about that 4, 5, 6 month stretch to get to now. How busy were you?
It's been the busiest I've ever been, actually. I mean, my family and all the coaches, they're amazed at all that we've been able to get done. I mean, I'm fortunate to have been able to put together just what I feel like is an outstanding football staff, and we've assembled what I feel like is a real good roster. So we'll see starting tomorrow.
Did it go smooth? Or did you have any hiccups along the way?
There were some bumps in the road. There always are. I mean, there were some, operational things that we had to get corrected, and there was some, personnel things we had to get corrected. We had to work through some of the stuff with the coaches, but overall, I'm pleased at where we're at.
It was a big job. Everybody knew that coming in here. Whoever got this job, it's a big job after what we saw last year with 3-11. Was it even bigger than you thought once you got into it?
You know what? I mean, they've all been big, in the past. We've got some very good guys on the roster already. There were some guys that we retained off last year's staff. Operationally, we do, some of the stuff that they've done. So they've done some good things in the past. It's just a matter of molding that all together.
Yeah, you talked about guys on the roster. Obviously, you kept guys, some key guys. You had a lot of turnover, though. Give me your thought process on turnover when you come into it, take over a team like that. How much is too much, and how close did you come to that line, do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to, you're looking at things statistically. I mean, you're going to look at things analytically. So, it's kind of like in baseball, they put a guy, if they're going to pinch hit for a guy, they're going to be a guy that can get on base. And so that's kind of what we, analytically, we looked at everything from A to Z, and that's kind of a lot what we based off of.
And obviously, every GM likes the team and coach likes the team he's put together in the offseason. But just tell me your thoughts on the guys you're able to get and what kind of team you think you're going to have this year.
Yeah, we won't talk about any one individual or anything like that. We've never been, a one-sided type deal. I mean, like I say, we're excited about our offensive staff. We're excited about having our special teams guys here. And with that being said, we're going to try to give them the best players that we can find. Certainly with the restrictions of having, just 6 workouts. I mean, it just allowed us 6 opportunities to get out and find some players. At the same time, we had to stay on the phones and had to take recommendations, had to look at a ton of film. And but we felt like we put together an outstanding, group of guys, in that locker room. So that's what we look forward to seeing starting tomorrow.
Go back to 14-15 when I first met you and got to watch you work, and now through this offseason. The first thing I kind of learned about Chris Jones is he's always working. You're scouting, you're watching video, you're making plans. You seem to always be working. Tell me about your drive. Where did you get your drive to work like you do?
Well, I mean, I think, my whole family's always been workers. My granddaddy, I know one time he picked up trash down in, he was a coal miner. And didn't have a high school education, and we were working one Sunday picking up trash for church, and he's picking up every single cigarette butt, every little, and I'm like, wow, he made $3.35 an hour is what he was making at the time, and he said they pay me $3.35 an hour to do a job. and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And so from there, my mom and dad, they both were extreme workers. They've been, people that you could depend on, and that's kind of where it came from.
Did you work when you were a kid? You paper route?
Well, I worked for the city. When I was growing up, I started when I was 14, working with the city, and just kind of, I've always, been a worker. So, trust me, I couldn't have played college football if I wasn't in the weight room, I assure you.
All right, as a GM and coach, lots on your plate, obviously. Tell me about your average work day during the season, on a regular season day, not a game day, but just a regular practice day. What's your work like? What time do you get in?
Yeah, I've got an assistant right now that's actually going to come in with me. We normally I'll get in around 4 o'clock in the morning. And it used to be earlier than that. I just can't get up as early as I used to, it seems. But we get in around 4, and I look at my emails and do all that kind of stuff. And then from 5 to 6, work out, and then of course then it becomes the film and the organizational part with the coaches. Coaches usually roll in around 6:30. And then we'll go through our day with practice and all that kind of stuff. And then we usually get out of here around, I'd say around, between 7 and 9, usually more 9 than it is 7, And as the week wears on, you can go home a little earlier. And then, of course, once, game time's here, it's time to take a little deep breath, get ready to roll.
So you work from 4 in the morning till 9 at night most days?
Yeah.
Wow. When do you sleep?
I
guess between 9 and 4, right?
From 9:30 when I get into bed till time to go next morning, And again, it's very simple. I mean, all my clothes are in that building right there. I don't have any clothes at my apartment. I mean, I'm here for one thing, and that's to coach football.
I'm guessing the clothes all are black?
They're all like this.
All
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. How did that start?
You know what? I read a deal with the guy from Facebook. It's kind of like, the less that you have to choose from, it's like you've got so many other decisions to make during the day, and black matches everything. You can put black with blue jeans, or you can put black with this gear here, and it just makes it a lot simpler. So I just kind of, adopted that, from reading that article.
So 3:45 in the morning, you're looking at your closet going, I think I'll wear the black today.
Yeah, wear black makes it easy.
Makes it easy, right? Nice. Coach and GM, do you split up the day? Do you spend some time, I got to do this as a GM, and then I'll do this?
Yeah, you got to get your roster set. That's the thing. I mean, we've been down there this morning hammering through our roster from the, deciding, who's going to get what reps, and how. And who's going to be at what position, and how many reps will they get at that position. And we've got some guys that are going to be dual role. If he can't play receiver, he maybe can play DB, and vice versa. If he can't play 3 technique, maybe he can play offensive tackle. So we're looking at multiple positional type players. And so you have to spend enough time going through that with your staff and having to look at it yourself and decide exactly what your plan will be. And so that's the first thing that you do, and then you go on. When the coaches come in, then you can shift gears to the football.
Yeah, you obviously you learned the GM craft in Saskatchewan after you left here after 15. So you had 2 years as a head coach here. I think it was 3 in Saskatchewan, head coach and GM. You went to the NFL, worked there with Cleveland for a couple of years. From 14 when you arrived here to 22 as you start a new season, how different are you?
Well, I mean, first of all, you got to understand I've been around some good people. To backtrack, I mean, I was fortunate to be around Don, who, Don wasn't technically the GM, but he was very heavily involved in what we did personnel-wise. So I was fortunate at a young age to be able to, be under a guy like that. Then I went with, Huff. I mean, and Huff he was GM head coach, and so I got to see how Huff did things. And Jim Barker was there at the same time. 2 really good personnel guys who've had great careers, learned a lot from those type guys, and then moved into a role where I had a little bit more say. So a lot of the stuff that we do is a lot like those other organizations have done in the past. So with that being said, I mean, where I was at 14 to where I am now, it's a little bit. I won't say easier, but I've been down that road and I've made mistakes, and so I'm able to maybe not make quite as many mistakes as what I've done in the past.
Do you still get fooled by stuff, whether it be in-game or managerial-wise? After you've been doing it for so long, do you still get surprised?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, because if there was a foolproof way of doing it, like we'd write it down and like we would be able to sell it, make a lot of money. So there's not really a foolproof way. I mean, because one year you may try something and it worked, and you think it's good, and then the next year it doesn't work so well. So, I mean, it's both in coaching and in personnel. So I think every year is its own entity, and we just have to kind of, make the decisions. And then once we make the decisions, that's what it is. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And like I say, I think the advent of the analytics has made some of the decisions a little bit more concrete. And I think that allows us to do things the right way.
How deep do you get into the analytics of football?
I'm pretty heavy. I've been pretty heavy. I mean, Doug Berry, Mike Smith, actually, back when I was in college ball, it seems like another life ago at Tennessee Tech. I mean, he's the first one that introduced me to the analytical part of the game. Then when I went to Montreal, met Doug Berry. Doug Berry was heavily involved analytically and breaking the film down, that type thing. And then it just kind of migrated from there. And I was pretty heavily involved, analytically in the stuff that we did in Cleveland. It wasn't just coaching, but like I say, it's a heavy part of our game these days.
I want to talk about Cleveland a little bit. Just get your take. We've seen hundreds of players come through here, and their dream is to play in the NFL. Right. They're playing here to get film, to go to the NFL, right?
That's right.
Is it the same for a coach? Once you've decided you're a career coach, is the NFL the spot? And when you got the opportunity, was it kind of a situation, I got to take it because I don't know if it's ever going to come again?
Well, the thing is, when you're, like when a kid grows up here, he's probably going to play NHL hockey, so same thing as a player down there or as a kid down there. You grow up, you're going to be the next Joe Namath or Joe Montana, or that's just what it is, and then when you figure out that you're not very tall and you're not very fast and you're not very shifty, that maybe coaching is a better avenue for you to stay in football. It's how do I become Bill Belichick? How do I become the Bill Parcells? That type thing. And so the challenge of trying to be at the pinnacle of the game, I mean, was certainly attractive. And like I say, I've been there, I've done that, and you just don't realize. And I told these kids out here on this field the other day, CFL is not a good game. It's an outstanding game, and I say that. I mean, it's. There's so much tradition here. Yeah, the money in the NFL is the money in the NFL, but money ain't everything. And the thing is, we've got such an outstanding game, got great players, got great following. This stadium has seen so many great players. G-Roy and I were in the locker room out here talking yesterday, like all the great players that are around our locker room, and it's and here we are essentially at the top of the organization and able to do it, man. It just kind of gives you cold chills, and we're just very fortunate.
Back to Chris Jones in a moment. Coming up tomorrow, though, from Winnipeg, it's the Elks' first preseason game of the year. You can hear it on Chorus Radio. 6:30 is kickoff time from Winnipeg as the Elks play the Blue Bombers. Pregame show will start with myself, Dave Campbell, and Brendan Escott coming to you at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The Elks, of course, will play their first and only home preseason game the following week. That's on June the 3rd when they play host to the Calgary Stampeders. This will be a very important football game for a lot of reasons. The football's important, but what's going on at the game also important. The Elks have dubbed this night Stand With Ukraine Night. It's going to be a special night for sure. $15 tickets across the board for the game against the Calgary Stampeders, and all the proceeds from that game will be donated to the Canadian-Ukraine Foundation. Chris, I want to read you something, and I want to get your response to this. Nestled in the foothills of the South Cumberland Mountains on the banks of the Tennessee River. What is that to you?
That's home. That's home. I mean, that's right where I'm from is South Pittsburgh. I'm very proud of where I'm from, and and I love it. I mean, my house is right in the middle of town there, and that's home for us.
Yeah, that's from the Clearly Chamber of Commerce from South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. What was it like growing up there?
Yeah, it was a small town. I mean, it's not a lot of money. Everybody's kind of you don't know you're poor. You know what I mean? Like you get out and you play ball, you play basketball, you play football in the fall, you play basketball in the winter, and you play baseball, in the summer, and that's really all there is. And cast iron, there's a cast iron factory there, and that's kind of what we do.
I looked up South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, on Wikipedia. The thing that caught my mind was the National Cornbread Festival.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, it's a festival. Like I say, cast iron started there in the 1800s, and it's something that's still there today. It's the only, actually, there's only two places that make cast iron. They produce it's one place in China and South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. And so probably if you look at the bottom of your cast iron pot, it's going to say Lodge. And so with that being said, they started a festival there about 20-something years ago. And what it does, it brings people to the town. It makes a lot of money for the town. And the lady that runs it's, a good friend of mine. And everybody comes together that one time a year to work together to try to, essentially make money for our town. And it's a good deal.
And the cornbread's good, I assume?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah. How did you first get involved in football? Do you remember a day where you picked up a football or you saw a game and you said, this is for me? Yeah,
I started when I was in 6th grade. I'd played baseball prior to that. I'd played what they used to call junior pro basketball. And a lot of my buddies were starting to play, they call it Little League football down south. And so they were starting to play Little League football. And so essentially I went out because my buddies were playing. And I played offensive guard. I wore number 75. I was a really... and you're running around, you're not hitting anybody because you don't know how to hit people yet, and so, but eventually you learn how to, you accelerate through a guy and you learn to hit, and hit properly, and then it just went from there. The aggressive part of the game was something that I loved, and eventually was able to work into a position where I touched the football, and then it became even more fun for me, Yeah. But yeah, I remember it very well.
Yeah, cool. Do you know Eddie Moore?
Oh yeah. Eddie's the only guy to ever get drafted into the NFL from our area or from our hometown there, and a very big supporter of the football program there, and he was a great athlete.
Back to Wikipedia, the South Pittsburgh, Tennessee Wikipedia page lists notable people from there. It's you, Eddie Moore, and some film star. Silent film star who was born in the 1800s.
That's right, yeah.
That's it, right? I guess it tells you about football in that town when two of the three most famous people from that town are football people.
Yeah, well, I mean, they love football. They won the state this past year. They won their 7th state championship, and they're going to be very good again. They always are very good. There's tons of really good players, and they love football. I think that's the key, is the fact that how much they love the game.
You had a brief trip back there to coach last year. What was that like, getting involved in high school football again there?
Well, again, I mean, my house is 2 blocks from the school, and it was something that again, I'm very proud of the program, love the program, and it was a big challenge for me. It was a bigger challenge than what I'd realized, I guess socially for myself. But it was helping the kids is the main thing. I've helped a lot of kids get in school, and I'm going to continue to do that. Use my contacts to try to help those guys get out of South Pittsburgh and go do something other than stay there if they can.
That's great. Do you call it the red zone, the blue zone, the green zone, the go zone? What do you call it?
Oh, according to which side of the field. Like if we're on defense, it's the red zone. It's the green zone for our offense.
It's funny. No one talks about it from a defensive perspective except for a defensive coordinator, right? So, all right, now on Antler Up, we call it the red zone, and it's the last 3 questions I'm going to ask you as we get out here today. First CFL game you ever saw?
Right here on this field.
Really?
Yep, I was here as a guest coach, and we played BC, and it was fun to be involved in. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was, I think, 1999 or so. Don Matthews was the head coach, and I came up, drove up, and took forever to get here, and was able to stay, 3 weeks or so as a guest coach, and it was right here on this field.
That was in Montreal then. So you drove from South Pittsburgh to Montreal for training camp?
Oh, no. I mean, I drove here.
Oh, you were here?
I drove here and guest coached, and I was coaching at Tennessee Tech.
Okay, so you were guest coach with the Double E.
That's right.
I never knew that before.
Yeah, I was a guest coach for Don. And that's how it all started, my love of the game. I remember driving up here and looking at this stadium for the first time. I mean, it's like, my God, such a, and again, it's like, seems like yesterday, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, wow, that's symmetrical for your career, for sure. All right, second question, most memorable football game you've ever been a part of?
Man, I can't name that, I mean, there's been so many, great games, I mean, the the Grey Cups are all. I mean, there's 4 Grey Cup wins and 3 Grey Cup losses, and I mean, the ones that stick with me are the ones where I did something. I didn't have a good call, or you feel like you can do something for the rest of your life to have won the overtime game, and in BC. So I don't know. There's just so many big games that it's too tough to say one.
All right, last one for you. Best place you go to unwind? And don't say the video room to watch more film.
Yeah, well, again, my office is real nice. The lights are kind of off and just kind of relaxing in there. But I really don't right now I'm staying at the hotel, so that's really the only 2 places that I'm at. Is the hotel and right here at my office.
I'm adding one more. When was the last vacation you had? That's the wrong answer right there if you can't remember it.
I don't know. That's a good. My daughter plays volleyball, and so I'm able to go on those trips to volleyball, and those have been some very, very fun times. I tell you when it was. My oldest daughter went to Europe, and we were able to go to Europe for the first time, to England and Paris, I think it was, so that was the last, I guess, trip that we took. But like I say, then the volleyball trips are every weekend, going somewhere to try to watch volleyball. So. Well,
your only upcoming trips are road trips.
Yeah.
Starting in the month of May with a trip to Winnipeg as the preseason starts. Chris, thanks for your time, man. It was great to talk to you.
Man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me.
Well, that's it. Episode 1 of Antler Up. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Elks General Manager and Head Coach Chris Jones. Now, here's the schedule for Antler Up. I'll remind you again, we're going to have a new podcast available for you every week, all season long. It will come out the day before every game, so be sure and join us. Why don't you like and subscribe? Do it right now. Like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. My name is Morley Scott. We'll see you next time on Antler Up.
Antler Up, Edmonton, touchdown Elks. James Wilder Jr.'s got a pair. Oh, he's got a man wide open. Mike Jones has it inside the 10. He'll walk the dog to the end zone. Antler Up, Edmonton, touchdown Elks.